welcome to our daily news program, coming to you here on Canal Algérie. To the headlines. The President of the Republic receives the Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Algeria, Youssef Saif Khamis Al Ali, bearer of an invitation letter sent by the Emirati head of state. The President of the Republic equally receives the Syrian Ambassador Namir Ouhaib Al Ghanem, who bid him a farewell visit at the end of his mission in Algeria. The Army General Seychin Greha, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, chairs the proceedings of the 16th session of the Orientation Council. 120 Algerian nationals, including members of the Algerian embassy in Khartoum, are evacuated, the first operation since the outbreak of the clashes in Sudan. Morocco, always the scene of protests against the high cost of living that are met with repression and violence by the Makhzen regime. Good evening and welcome back. First up in our news, the President of the Republic received on Tuesday the Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Algeria, Youssef Saif Khamis Al Ali, bearer of an invitation letter sent by the Emirati head of state. The audience took place in the presence of the Principal Private Secretary of the Presidency, Mohammed Nadir Al Arbawi. The President of the Republic equally received the Ambassador of the Republic of Syria, Namir Ouhaib Al Ghanem, who bid him a farewell visit at the end of his mission in Algeria. The audience took place in the presence of the Principal Private Secretary of the Presidency, Mohammed Nadir Al Arbawi. Later on, the Syrian ambassador made the following statement in which he paid a vibrant tribute to the President of the Republic and to Algeria's support and position. Let's have a listen to him.
تشرفت بلقاء السيد الرئيس عبد المجيد تبون في زيارة وداعية لسيادته.
I was honored to pay a farewell visit to the President of the Republic at the end of my mission in Algeria as Ambassador of Syria. During the meeting, I listened to his advice, his vision, and took profit of his clairvoyance relating to international and regional issues, notably those related to the Arab world. The two presidents' will is centered on promoting bilateral relations and to make them exceptional. We will never forget Algiers' support during the challenges met by Syria, notably its position during the Arab Summit. I wish more prosperity to Algeria, a strong country under the aegis of the President of the Republic.
أشكر السيد الرئيس عبد المجيد تبون على تجاوبه الكبير في مساعدتنا بإجلاء 22 مواطنا سوريا في السودان.
I particularly thank President Tebboune for evacuating 22 nationals stranded in areas of conflict and securing them in safe places while repatriating the Algerian brothers.
The Army General Seychin Greha, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, stressed the necessity of acquiring cutting-edge weapons while paying a visit to the War Hire School to chair the 16th session of the Orientation Council. Ines Killu has details.
After the welcoming ceremony and at the entrance of the War Hire School, the Army General, accompanied by the commander of the 1st Military Region and the commander of the school, observed a minute of silence in memory of the late President Ali Kafi, whose name is borne by the headquarters, and laid a wreath of flowers in front of his commemorative stele before reciting the Fatiha, or the opening chapter of the Holy Quran, in his memory and that of the valiant Shuhada.
إن الحروب الحديثة سيما منها تلك التي تشهدها في السنوات القليلة الماضية.
At the beginning of the meeting, the Army General delivered a speech in which he stressed that the modern wars that the world is experiencing today are totally different from the previous ones, which led the People's National Army to pay a particular attention to two vital aspects, namely the provision of modern equipment and the training of a qualified human resources. He also stressed that he is firmly convinced that the effort made in the field of acquiring various types of weapons and modern equipment at the cutting edge of technology cannot achieve its goal if it's not entrusted to qualified men capable of fully exploiting its technical and technological capabilities. It is with this in mind that our efforts have been made in recent years to give due attention to these two components, which are constantly interdependent, and to always ensure that the military gives this aspect the interest that suits it.
السنوات القليلة الماضية للاعتناء الناجع بهذين العنصرين المتلازمين باستمرار، وأكدنا دوما على أهمية إلى المستخدمين العسكريين الاهتمام المستحق لهذا الجانب، والاعتناء الذي أقصده وأحثكم على اتباعه، خصوصا أنتم إطارات المدرسة العليا الحربية.
The General of the Army urged the staff of the War Higher School to encourage trainee officers to constantly enrich their knowledge capital, both through reading and through the valorization of their experiences acquired on the ground, and that they should not be satisfied with the prescribed period of study and training only.
من خلال المطالعة أو من خلال استغلال التجارب الميدانية المعاشة. ذلك أن المدرسة الحقيقية هي مدرسة الحياة المهنية.
The real school is the school of professional and practical life, and there is no doubt that this will give senior military officers qualities of intelligence and refinement while dealing with weapons, equipment, and the various types of equipment available.
المعركة بشكل يسمح بالتكيف الفاعل والسريع مع المواقف المستجدة، غير أن كل ذلك سيبقى يحتاج أولا وأخيرا.
Army General also emphasized the importance of perseverance for success and the strength to be convinced of victory in the future executives of the People's National Army. He also stressed that this is the professional and patriotic sense that he strives to instill the hearts, minds, and souls of all employees of the People's National Army, because with it our army can accomplish the constitutional tasks entrusted to it, and with it the Algerian people are reassured for their present and future, wherever the challenges and no matter how great the tasks are.
حاضره ومستقبله مهما كانت التحديات ومهما عظمت الرهانات.
At the end of the meeting, the Army General followed up with a comprehensive presentation made by the commander of the school on the assessment of the objectives achieved since the previous session of the Orientation Council, as well as the provisional plan for the next academic year 2023-2024, before exchanging views concerning the agenda's items with the members of the Council.
In other news, and pursuant to the instructions of the President of the Republic, 120 Algerian nationals, including members of the Algerian embassy in Khartoum, were evacuated on board of an aircraft belonging to the Algerian Air Forces. It is worth recalling that this operation is the first since the outbreak of clashes in the brotherly country of Sudan, and it included as well Syrian and Palestinian nationals. They were received by senior officials, including the Interior Minister, who hailed the president's decision, which was also praised by those coming back to Algeria. Other attacks were carried out across the Sudanese territory, despite the ceasefire announced on Monday by the Rapid Support Forces, further complicating the already fragile situation in Sudan. More details with Melissa Kebash.
The attacks in Sudan continue despite the ceasefire that was supposed to come into effect on Monday. The evacuation operations are still ongoing for their part as well. The humanitarian situation is worsening. The United Nations is seriously preoccupied by the repercussions of violence on civilians. According to the United Nations, Sudanese are short of food, water, medicine and fuel, alongside power outages and communication means. In the meantime, the World Health Organization indicated that the violent attacks have claimed 450 people and caused the injury of 4,072 others, and forced civilians to flee the city of Khartoum towards other countries, including Chad and Djibouti. The WHO also sounded concerning the biological risks after the occupation of a national health laboratory, qualifying the situation as extremely dangerous, calling for the end of the deadly attacks against the health staff.
In another story, and in his capacity as an envoy of the President of the Republic, the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Ahmed Attaf was received on Tuesday in Nouakchott by the Mauritanian President Mohamed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani as part of his working visit to Mauritania. On this occasion, the head of the Algerian diplomacy handed to the Mauritanian President a letter sent by his brother, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, who also conveyed his greetings and displayed his determination to carry on with the joint action in quest of promoting the brotherhood and cooperation relations between the two countries. The audience centered on discussing the progress achieved in terms of implementing the guidelines of the two heads of state in terms of consolidating the Algerian-Mauritanian relations. In a related context, the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Ahmed Attaf was equally received on Tuesday in Nouakchott by the Mauritanian Prime Minister Mohamed Ould Bilal Mas'oud, to whom he conveyed the greetings of his Algerian counterpart Ayman bin Abdurrahman. They also tackled the means of preserving and consolidating the dynamics marking the cooperation relations. During this meeting, the two parties evoked the follow-up of implementing the 19th session of the Algerian-Mauritanian Commission's outcome, namely the intensification of bilateral cooperation in the socio-economic, cultural and scientific sectors. They also discussed the preparations for the upcoming bilateral meetings, notably the meeting of the follow-up and organization committee of the 20th session of the joint Algerian-Mauritanian Commission, due to be held in the capital, Algiers. In another story, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan awarded the Medal of Merit to national and foreign staff who participated in the rescue operations following the earthquake which hit the country. The director of the Coordination and Organization of Rescue Operations, Moulay Khalifa, who led the Algerian team in Turkey, took part in the ceremony held at the presidential complex in Turkey. The Turkish president awarded him the medal in addition to a recognition certificate that he handed to the Algerian ambassador to Turkey, Soufiane Mimouni. As a reminder, Algeria swiftly responded to calls for assistance from Turkey by sending a team of civil defense and donations in line with the instructions of the President of the Republic. In a new development, the non-governmental organization Western Sahara Resource Watch called on all companies involved in trade with Morocco to immediately stop the purchase and transportation of phosphate coming from occupied Western Sahara until an adequate settlement is found for the conflict. In its second annual report, the organization mentioned in details the companies involved in plundering the Sahrawi phosphate, being as one of the major revenue resources for the Makhzen regime, while violating the international legality. And the Sahrawis' rights violation never ends. The Moroccan occupation forces are inflicting the worst abuses on the population, according to these testimonies of some Sahrawi activists. Let's follow.
Either in the occupied Laayoune or in the rest of the occupied Sahrawi territories, the Sahrawi people live in a state of siege and suffer daily the worst forms of repression from the Moroccan occupying forces who have invaded Laayoune city with a sole purpose of terrorizing the entire Sahrawi people, as well as the militants and the representatives of the Polisario Front. We are witnessing on this day an unprecedented police siege, particularly in the occupied Laayoune. The militants are attacked in order to terrorize them. They should know that this will not stop us and that we are not afraid. On the contrary, we are determined to continue our fight and our struggle until we are free and independent. In the occupied territories, we suffer repression in its worst forms, but we will not give up until victory.
Repression, violence and poverty, the least to say about the disastrous living conditions of the Moroccans, who remain, however, determined to keep struggling despite the deaf-ear strategy being turned by the Makhzen regime. Melissa Kubash reports.
As it was the case months ago, Moroccans keep swamping the streets, denouncing their miserable situation and expressing their fed up of their disastrous living conditions. The high cost of living, marginalization and the indifferent policy being imposed by the Makhzen. The city of Skhirat witnessed a number of attacks that led to the injury of many Moroccans following demonstrations carried out against the poverty prevailing among the inhabitants. The security forces deployed all means to put an end to these demonstrations to crack down the crowds. The Moroccan territories are flooded with angry citizens, determined now more than ever before to get a response for their legitimate demands, despite the deaf-ear strategy turned by the current regime.
To Palestine now, where dozens of settlers stormed on Tuesday the Al-Aqsa Mosque, where they made provocative marches while performing Talmudic rituals under the protection of the Zionist police. On Monday, several elements of the Zionist police entered the mosque via Bab al-Rahma and cut the electric wires for the second time in a row, preventing the Al-Aqsa guards from having access. And as part of the Heritage Month, we invite you now to immerse yourself into the beautiful universe of Tassili Najer, the national park where hundreds of engravings denote the region's old and rich history. Story by Najah Diyar.
Spreading over 72,000 kilometers, the Tassili Najer is one of the largest open-air museums in the world with more than 20,000 archaeological sites. The park, dating back to more than 13,000 years before Christianity, is home to several caves and thousands of rock carvings from different periods. The immense plateau also includes the mountains of Ijabaran at an altitude of 2,500 meters, where more than 15,000 drawings and engravings from 6,000 years before Christianity to the first centuries of our era, depicting the climate change, migrations and wildlife in the borders of the Sahara. This instrument was used by prehistoric men to extract material which was mixed with milk to make a paint used to draw these engravings. The exceptional density of paintings and engravings and the existence of numerous prehistoric remains are exceptional testimonies of prehistoric civilization of this region. This rock art made Tassili famous since the date of its discovery on 1933. This is complete art, whether on the technical side or the illustrated subjects and the way of illustrating them. These valuable engravings testify a great civilization. According to some historians and researchers, the Tassili Najer Park dates back to 5,000 years and to before the pyramids of Egypt. The Cultural Park of Tassili Najer is classified since 1982 in the World Heritage by the UNESCO. It is also registered in the World Biosphere Reserve since 1986. It should be noted that this park, which contains the Valley of Ihrir, is also classified since February 2001.
And with our unique heritage, we come to the end for today's program. Thank you for joining us and goodbye.